Imagine being alone in a foreign country, surrounded by enemies, with no army behind you, no protection, no second chance. Your only weapon is your courage. During World War II, one woman entered Nazi-occupied France with a secret mission. She knew the danger, she knew the risks, and she knew that if she was captured, there might be no way back. Her name was Noor Inayat Khan, a woman who became one of Britain's most courageous secret agents. But her story was almost forgotten. When people talk about World War II, they often remember famous battles, the beaches, the armies, the leaders. But behind those events were thousands of people working in silence. Spies, resistance fighters, messengers, ordinary people who made extraordinary choices. They did not always carry weapons. Sometimes their greatest weapon was information. And sometimes that information could decide who survived. Noor Inayat Khan was born in 1914 in Moscow. Her family had a unique background. Her father was an Indian spiritual teacher and musician. Her mother was American. From an early age, Noor was surrounded by ideas of peace, creativity, and compassion. She was not someone who was naturally drawn toward violence. She loved writing, music, stories, and imagination. She was a gentle person, but history was about to place her in one of the darkest moments humanity had ever seen. When Nazi Germany invaded France in 1940, millions of lives changed forever. France was occupied, families were separated, people lived under fear and uncertainty. Many resisted secretly. They passed messages, helped escaping soldiers, and fought against Nazi control from the shadows. Britain needed people who could work behind enemy lines, people who could communicate with resistance groups, people who could send information back to Allied forces. This was the world of the Special Operations Executive, a secret organization created during the war. Its members were trained for extremely dangerous missions, and Noor Inayat Khan decided to join. This decision surprised many people because she was not the typical image of a spy. She was a writer, a musician, a person who believed in peace. But she believed something important. Sometimes protecting peace requires extraordinary courage. Noor joined the war effort because she believed that doing nothing was not an option. She wanted to help defeat tyranny. She wanted to protect innocent people, and she was willing to risk everything. But becoming a secret agent was not easy. Before she could enter enemy territory, she had to face intense training that would test her strength, her intelligence, and her ability to survive. Joining the Special Operations Executive was not like joining a normal military unit. These agents were trained for a completely different kind of war, a hidden war, a war fought in darkness. They were taught how to communicate secretly, how to avoid attention, how to survive behind enemy lines, and how to continue their mission even when everything around them was trying to stop them. For Noor Inayat Khan, this training was a huge challenge. She had a creative and peaceful personality. She was not someone who had grown up dreaming of combat. She was a writer, a thinker, a person who loved stories and music. But now, she was preparing for a mission where one mistake could cost lives. One of the most important skills for an SOE agent was wireless communication. Agents used radios to send messages between resistance groups and British intelligence. The information they sent could help organize operations against Nazi forces. But there was a deadly danger. Every radio transmission created a risk. Enemy forces had equipment that could track signals. A careless message could reveal an agent's location. Noor understood the danger. She knew that going into occupied France meant leaving behind the safety of Britain. She knew capture could mean torture or death. But she continued, because she believed the mission mattered. In 1943, Noor was sent to France under the codename Madeleine. Her mission was extremely important. She became a wireless operator for the resistance network in Paris. At the time, many agents had already been captured. The network was under pressure. The situation was becoming more dangerous every day. When Noor arrived in France, she entered a world of constant fear. She had to move carefully. She had to trust very few people. She carried a secret identity, and she knew that the enemy was always searching.
A wireless operator had one of the most dangerous jobs in the resistance. Why? Because the radio connected the resistance to Britain. Without communication, many operations would fail. But with communication, there was always the chance of being discovered. Imagine sitting alone in a room, knowing that every message you send could save lives, but could also expose you. That was the reality Noor faced. Despite the danger, Noor continued her work. She sent messages. She helped maintain communication. She kept the network alive at a time when many believed the mission was becoming impossible. But war is unpredictable, and behind every secret mission, there are risks that cannot always be controlled. As the months passed, the situation around Noor became more dangerous. Enemy forces were closing in. Agents were disappearing. Trust became harder to find. And the question became, how long could she survive? Noor Inayat Khan had entered France as a secret agent, but soon she would face the darkest chapter of her story, a chapter that would test her courage like never before. In the world of secret operations, trust is everything. An agent's life can depend on one person keeping a secret. One mistake, one betrayal can destroy everything. And for Noor Inayat Khan, that danger was getting closer. By 1943, the resistance networks in France were under enormous pressure. The Nazis were hunting for secret agents. They were searching for radio operators. They were trying to break the communication links between Britain and the resistance. Noor's situation became extremely dangerous. Many agents around her had been captured. The network she was supporting was falling apart. The safest option would have been to return to Britain, but Noor made a different choice. She decided to stay, because she believed her work was still needed. She knew the risks, she knew the danger, but she continued sending messages. This decision showed something important about Noor. She was not fearless because she did not understand danger. She was brave because she understood it completely and still chose to continue. Eventually, Noor was betrayed. Her location was discovered, and in October 1943, she was captured by the Gestapo. For a secret agent, capture was the moment everyone feared. The enemy wanted information, names, locations, details about the resistance. Noor was taken for interrogation. The Nazis tried to get information from her. They wanted to know about the network. They wanted to know who was helping Britain. But Noor refused to give them what they wanted. She protected the secrets of the people who trusted her. Even when facing extreme pressure, she stayed loyal to her mission. The Gestapo considered her a dangerous prisoner. She was eventually transferred between prisons. Her situation became more difficult. But even during captivity, she tried to maintain hope. Noor attempted to escape more than once, because even as a prisoner, she did not stop fighting. She still believed freedom was possible. Think about that moment, a person surrounded by enemies, separated from everything familiar, with almost no control over what happens next, and yet still looking for a way forward. That was the strength of Noor Inayat Khan. Her courage was not about being physically powerful. It was about refusing to surrender her values. Eventually, Noor was moved to Germany. The war was still continuing. The world outside was fighting for freedom, while Noor was fighting her own silent battle. She had entered the war as a young woman who loved writing and music, but the circumstances of history had transformed her into something else, a symbol of courage, a person who proved that bravery can come from the most unexpected places. The final chapter of Noor Inayat Khan's story would become one of sacrifice, courage, and remembrance. By 1944, World War II was entering a new phase. The Allied forces were preparing for major operations. The fight against Nazi Germany was reaching a critical point. But for Noor Inayat Khan, the war had taken her far away from the quiet life she once knew. She was no longer just a writer, no longer just a musician. She had become a secret agent who carried the responsibility of protecting others. And even in captivity, she never gave up the principles she believed in.
History often remembers the loudest voices, the generals, the leaders, the people standing in front of huge armies. But sometimes, the most powerful stories come from people who worked in silence, people whose names were almost forgotten. Noor Inayat Khan was one of those people, a young woman who left behind a peaceful life and stepped into one of the most dangerous periods in human history. She entered occupied France knowing the risks. She knew that every message she sent could put her life in danger. She knew that capture was a possibility, but she continued. Because true courage is not the absence of fear. True courage is choosing to do what is right, even when you are afraid. Noor was not a soldier carrying a weapon on a battlefield. Her battlefield was hidden. Her weapon was information. Her mission was to help others. And although her journey ended far too soon, her story survived. Today, Noor Inayat Khan is remembered as a symbol of bravery, sacrifice, and determination. Her story reminds us that heroes can come from anywhere, any background, any culture, any walk of life. One person, one decision, one act of courage can create a legacy that lasts for generations. The world Noor Inayat Khan lived in was filled with darkness. But even in the darkest moments, there were people who chose to bring light. And Noor was one of them. She was a writer who became a spy, a peaceful person who faced war, a forgotten hero whose courage was finally recognized. Her story is a reminder that sometimes the quietest people can show the greatest strength. If you enjoy discovering forgotten heroes and untold stories from history, subscribe to the channel. More incredible stories from the past are waiting to be remembered. Thank you for watching.